Hello and welcome to my tutorial. I'm going to show you today how to set up a character for ZEQ2-Lite. I'm going to cover pretty much just the tags and what you need to do to export the character properly and get it in-game. Okay, so first off, this is going to assume that you already have a character and that it's already modeled out, rigged and animated and textured and everything. So once you have all that done, and you can find tutorials for that all over the internet everywhere, especially on YouTube. Once you have all that done, you need to set up the tags to inform the game how the character is going to be oriented. To start that, what I usually do is I create a plane, make sure that I bring the segments all the way down to 1, and create it somewhere in the scene, and try to put it just above the foot level. This will make it so that the character will be roughly at the right spot when they're in the game to equate to standing on the ground. From here, what you do is convert it to an editable poly, go into vertex mode, right click, collapse, right click again, collapse again, and now you have a single vertex point, which is exactly what you need for a tag. Exit out of vertex mode and you'll notice that the gizmo here jumped. That's because it's not actually centered to where the vertex point is. To fix that, you go up in hierarchy, go to Effect Pivot Only, Center to Object, and then click Effect Pivot Only again, and now it's centered to your vertex point, which is where you need it. Now, got that centered underneath the character, right where it's supposed to be. And I'm going to actually rotate it 90 degrees in one direction, because typically when I create tags in 3D Studio Max, the tags are the wrong orientation for the game. Alright, from here I will take the tag and I will rename it tag underscore floor. That should cover that tag. That one's done. Now, next, I'm going to go into a front view, and I'm going to switch over to a frame that gets roughly the character standing in somewhat of a neutral position. If I can find one. I might have to just settle for animation sequence I haven't adjusted yet. This one might be the best spot. So from here, go into wireframe mode, hold down shift and drag up. This will make a copy of the tag, and it'll pop up this dialog. You just go in here and change the name from tag floor 001 and rename it to tag torso. And then do this one more time and bring it up to about where the head meets the neck and rename it again tag underscore head. And those are the 3 basic tags that you will need to orient the character. And from there, I'll go in here, find my tag torso. I will press down space, which is the hotkey to lock my selection, and I will go up to select and link up here in the top left corner, and I will click on this spine, which is the closest point to where the tag is being placed. Now I'm placing it here because this is where the 2 models split between the upper and the lower, so this will actually orientate the upper body to correctly face forward when the lower body is animating for moving around. So if you're say, charging up a energy attack, the character's upper body will continue to face forward while the legs animate to the strafing animation or the moving forward animation or so on and so forth. Anyways, now that that's linked, I will go and select the head tag next. And for that one, I'm going to do the same thing, spacebar to lock the selection, select and link, and then go in here and find a good spot to click on the biped head. And once I have that done, now the tag should be parented correctly to the biped. So when you animate it, all the tags should follow along with the biped. Wait for it to autosave. I usually have it auto-saving about every 5 minutes or so, just to make sure that if something goes wrong in the game, the program crashes for whatever reason, I have backup files, usually in about 5 to 15 iterations, that I can go back to and recover some of what I was working on. Not all, but usually enough that I can pick up and keep going. Now I'll go back in here and go and select tag floor again. This time I'm going to drag it off to the side and rename it tag aura 0. And the reason I'm naming this one is because there are going to be multiple iterations of the tag aura, and you can have quite a few of them if you really need them, but usually you don't want to have too many because it just makes things cumbersome. And from here, I'll again spacebar to lock selection, select and link, and parent it to the biped's left foot. Wait for it to save again, and then as soon as that's done, shift drag. Actually, I did that wrong. Control V to make a copy. Remove the zeros. And click OK. And then down here, I'm going to add a negative symbol in there, which should automatically put it to the exact same location opposite of the first tag. And then do the exact same thing, select lock it and select it link, and it looks like it linked to the model and not the biped, so let's try that again. That time it worked, and that would be tag aura number 1. And then I'm going to do it again up here, tag aura 2. And this one I'll link to the left thigh. Copy that. Tag aura 3. Add in the negative again so that it's on the opposite side. Select and link and lock the selection. And that's the 4th aura tag. So next I'm going to change it a little bit and put the next one right up here, around roughly where the torso tag is. Tag aura 4. I'm going to control and right click to zero that out to the center, and then lock selection and link it to that spine bone. And then I'm just gonna go real quick through these last few. Alright, now that I got all the tags for the body done, I'm going to do one more for the head. And that will be tag aura number 9. I want to position that just above the head, and then zero out the position, and then go up here and click unlink selection just to make sure that it doesn't carry over the copied link that the previous one it was made from had. That way it's not actually parented to the same bone. Actually, I might want to merge it with or link it to the head bone. So I think I'll do that instead, actually, real fast. And that is the tags. Alright. Next, I'm going to go into perspective mode. Move my camera around a little bit. Copy it one more time, and this time I'm going to rename it tag weapon. Now this is going to be the tag that tells the game where the attacks are actually being fired from. Otherwise it doesn't know and it just guesses. And when it guesses, that usually defaults to somewhere near the center of the character, usually around where the tag torso is. That's generally bad because charge effects will then just spontaneously start manifesting out of the center of the character and it just looks awful. So make sure when you make a character you include a tag weapon. And for this one, I am not going to link it to a bone because this one will have to actually be animated to coincide with various attacks. For the most part, it's simply a matter of making sure that you have auto key turned on and that you put the tag to where you need it to go. Make sure that it's lined up real nice with the character's hands for where they're throwing the attack from. And you want to make sure that if you're doing it that way, you have that key set to the keyframe before it too, so that it's not transitioning, because if you'll notice, it's transitioning from its base position to where it was moved to. That would be bad if you had that happening during the actual attack animation, because then the tag is moving around when it's trying to pick the trajectory, and it just looks weird. So make sure that you put a keyframe in before you actually start animating the weapon tag for each portion of each attack. Otherwise, it will screw with your animation by trying to tween between the frame that you just made and the previous frame, which is all the way over here at frame 0. So it's transitioning all the way through up until it gets to frame 216. Generally a bad thing to have. Anyways, that is pretty much most of what you will need to know. The next step for the tags is you will need to set up a look at constraint. Usually the easiest way to do that is to just grab a box primitive. Doesn't really matter how big it is or anything, just make sure that it's somewhere in front of the character and centered directly in front of them. And then zoom out and move it as far away in front of the character as you can, so that it is a great distance. The further away the better, just for the sake of making sure that the trajectory is as straight as possible. This will actually ensure that your character is going to be firing at a specific location and your beams will always head the exact same direction. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to go in here and turn off auto keys so that it's not animating the box actually. Let me find the box. Delete those keyframes so that it's just there That way it's not actually animating and moving around in the scene. Always make sure you turn off auto key before you go to mess around with other stuff. Otherwise it'll screw up the integrity of whatever it is you're working on, and it'll just be more difficult to work with. Anyways, from here you're going to go in and find your tags. And for this we're going to need tag torso first. Grab that one, go up to animation, constraints, look at constraint, and then you'll press the H key on your keyboard and go and find the box that we just made, which is box 002. Click pick, and now you will notice that there's a tiny little blue line stretching out in front of the character. This is indicating that there's a look at constraint in that direction. This is what tells the torso tag that the upper body will always face in that direction regardless of the direction that the lower body is animating at, because the tag is always facing that direction regardless of the model orientation. Next we're going to do the same thing with the tag weapon. Click OK. Animation, constraints, look at constraint. H to pull up the object selection menu. Box 002. Usually you want to rename box 002 something that easy to find, usually something like look at box. But for the purposes of this video, I'm going to just leave it as is because it's fine, just so long as I remember what it is. And now you'll notice that a blue line has appeared for the weapon tag too. That'll make sure that the beams always fire forward and that any particle effects that are supposed to generate will always go in the correct direction. Now from here, our tags are pretty much set up. All we have to do now is actually export the character. But first, before we actually do that, we need to make sure that the game will actually be able to find the character. So first, I'm going to go into the players folder of the game directory. You'll notice ZEQ2-Lite underscore SVN / build / ZEQ2 / players. I'm going to right click on Goku, make a copy of his folder, paste it. Now pause real quick while it copies. Okay, it's done copying, so I'm going to rename this folder Chi-Chi. Hit enter to confirm the rename. Pull this open, and I'm going to delete the SVN file here just so that I can work without it wanting to try and update anything or think that this is supposed to be Goku. So go in here and delete it in each of these folders as well. This one does not have it. That one does. And actually, I'm only going to need tier 1 for this, so I'm just going to delete all the other ones. So this is pretty much all I'm going to need. And because Chi-Chi does not actually have any damaged or emblem skins, I am going to just delete all of those. I'm going to leave the camera and everything else in there alone, maybe get rid of this so that she's not speaking with Goku's voice. Go in here and view, sort, where's sort? range icons by type, and just delete all of the sound files just to make sure that that's all out of the way. And I'm going to delete the textures too because I'm not going to need those. And now I'll actually delete the emblem files too because I won't need those either. And that should about do it for the prep work. Next, we're going to actually... I missed one. We're going to open up the default skin file, and we're going to go into here, arrange everything by name, and look for just Chi-Chi's model parts. Now that we have those selected so that we can see what they are, we can go into here and get this synced up accordingly. Now, you could do this one of two ways. You can either use the find and replace function, or you can just enter them in manually. It's probably better to just do it manually, because then you can make sure that you actually get everything correct. So, we'll start at the top. Chi-Chi socks. Chi-Chi. I'm just going to copy that so I can just paste it. Skirt. Shirt, orange. Alright, that should cover all of the various parts for the skin file, so I will click Save and close that out. And next I will go into my scripts folder and I will actually set up the script file for the character. For this, I'm gonna just cheat a little bit and grab player kid Gohan, copy that, and paste it, and then rename it. Player Chi-Chi. Open that up. Replace this up here. And for this part, it's going to be a lot of tweaking just to get the various shaders correct. So let's go and do this real fast. Select everything that I don't need. Which Gohan doesn't have any damage textures yet anyways. So I'm not sure why it has the shader set up already. But let's see. This we can go in real quick and rename that Chi-Chi Eyes. And then you'll pretty much do that for most of the shader file. So I'll just pause here and get everything set up. Okay, so I think that I'm actually done setting up the shader file. I pretty much just went through and replaced the names for each heading, made sure that I had everything on my list here for the various model parts, and made sure that the textures that are being called up are the correct names, and put in quick placeholders for most of the cell shading bands. For the boots and the purple parts, I'm just leaving it as shade dark 3tone.png, just because I'll be perfectly honest, I'm too lazy to actually set up a cell band just for this tutorial. I'll probably get to it later before I actually finish the character, though, officially. But just to make sure, I'm going to, once again, save it, close it out, and then from there, I'm actually going to go back into the tier folder over here and go back out. And I'm going to double check that everything here is going to be set up correctly for what I need to do. Alright, I apparently missed a file over here, so I'll delete that real fast because I don't need two icons. For the icon, I'm probably just going to leave it as is for right now because I don't really want to mess with it too much. But I think that everything else should be set up correctly. Just double check one more time. Yeah, looks like it's all correct. So on to the next step, which is where things get a little tricky if you don't know exactly what you need. Alright, for the first step, I'm going to grab just the ankle cloth, which is pretty much the part right around the ankle of the boot. I'm not sure what it's called, I'm just calling it that just for simplicity's sake. I'm going to grab the belt, boots, and the pants, and the skirt. I think that that is all I need for just the lower body. And from there I will actually grab tag aura 0 through 4, and then I will also grab tag floor and tag torso, just so that it knows where the floor is for that model and where the torso tag is, so it can properly orient the upper body. Click OK. Should have all those selected. Now I'm going to go up here and create a selection set, and I'm going to call it legs export and hit enter so that it's saved in there. And now whenever I need to export the lower again, I can just go up there, click on that, and it'll select everything for me. And I'm going to do the same thing for the upper body now. So going to go and grab the body, the scarf, the shirt orange, and the rings around her wrists, the little bracelet things. I think that's everything for that. And then for that, I'm going to grab tag aura 4 and drag up to 8. And then I'm going to grab the head and torso tag, not the floor tag, and tag weapon. And click OK. Go back up here, create another selection. This one will be body export. And I just want to double check real quick for the legs, because I think I might have actually missed a piece. Yes, I did. I forgot the socks. You always want to make sure that you grab everything that you're going to need to export, because if you miss one thing, the model's not going to look right. So I'm going to go in there and go in here and right click, remove the legs export selection that I made before, and I'm going to remake it. And now whenever I click on it, it'll actually have the socks selected now, so I should be good. Now for the last step, I'm going to go back in here one last time, and I'm going to grab her head, which is going to consist of the face, the eyes, the earrings, and hair and hairband. Everything else should have been covered by the body and the lower, or the legs, however you want to phrase it. So now that I have those selected, I can scroll back up, grab tag aura 9, and tag head. You don't really need any more tags than that, just for the basics of the character model. So just that should be good. And I should be all set to export the character now. So click OK, go up here, make one more selection set, head, export, hit enter, and now I'm going to actually export the head now. So go up here, go to export, export selected. I'm going to find my install directory for the game, which should be right in here. Build, players, Chi-Chi, tier 1, and then go in here to quake3.md3 for the save as type. I'll include in the description for this video the link to the actual export plugin that I usually use. It's not the best plugin. I usually have to use Misfit Model 3D to repair some of the issues with the plugin after I export, but I'll go into more detail with that after I finish this up. But to continue on, I'll click on the head, double click. It's asking if I want to replace it. I'll go yes. And then for the actual export process, you'll want to make sure that you select tag head. You don't really need these selected. They don't really do much except pop-up warning messages or what have you. And for the frames, you should put 0 and whatever the last frame of your overall animation is. So 0, 2, and down here it says 667, so put 667 for my frame count, and export now. And it says writing frames, and it's going through each part of the model, and now the head's done. Go back up here, grab the body, do the same thing. Export selected. Yes. 0-667. In this one, I'm going to put the position relative to tag torso. Export now. This one's going to take a little longer because it actually has animation, and it's going to be the same with the legs too. Usually head is the fastest to export. Go back up here, grab the legs, and export one more time. Export selected, lower, place it, 0-667. And this one, you'll set the position relative to tag floor. Uncheck those and click export now. Wait for it to write the frames. Okay. Now we are pretty much done with using 3ds Max for the moment. We'll go into here and we will grab the head model, rename that head 1, because for some reason Misfit Model 3D has issues with certain file names, and it looks like some of the orientations for our tags are a little messed up. I think that is actually our head tag. Yeah, it says tag head, which means that it's actually off-center from the rest of the model. That could be problematic. I'll have to go back and fix that eventually, but for the moment we'll just keep going. Notice how it's saying the file path name is too long. That's one of the things about Misfit Model 3D that I do not like, which means rename that back to head 1, drag it onto the desktop, and where did it go? I apparently had a head model on my desktop already. Give me one sec. Okay, figured it out. Now I got it on the desktop now. Click no, because it usually wants to try and load the entire model for some reason. Go File, Save. Hopefully this time it'll work. Yes, it did. Close that out, drag the head model back in. The upper and lower usually don't have the same issue. I can usually just rename them upper 1 load it up and resave it. And it looks like the upper, some of the tags are a little disoriented a touch, it seems. I'm not exactly sure what the issue is with the tags. Let's resize my window a little bit so I can see the animation. Yeah, it looks like all the tags are off-center from where they're supposed to be. So I'm not sure what happened that's causing this issue, but I'll have to see if I can't figure it out. But for the most part, it looks like it's okay, so let's click save. We can fix the tags later. The tags can always be replaced relatively quickly. Once you know how to make them, you can make new ones real easy. But it looks like everything's in the correct orientation. She's facing forward, and she's roughly the correct orientation. Now rename that back to just upper. Rename that lower one and open that one up and see how that one looks. That one also looks to still be facing forward, so it looks okay, but again, the tags are all messed up for some reason. Really not entirely sure what happened to screw them up, and I also seem to have screwed up my model separation a bit because the belt was supposed to be part of the upper. But save that real quick and close that out. And then back out to the player folder, and from here I'm going to have to actually go and find my textures. I think it was, yes, this is the texture I need, so I will drag over a copy of it and rename that Chi-Chi head so that it matches with my scripts folder from earlier. Yeah, Chi-Chi and then uppercase H for head. And then once I got that in there, I will go and find my other textures, which will be this one for the legs. Probably want to double check that file name too. Yeah, it's supposed to be lower, so rename that real fast to Chi-Chi lower, and then grab that one, copy that over as well, and then Chi-Chi upper. And that should cover everything that I need for right in here. So when I open up the game, I should find the character working correctly in the game environment. So let's open it up and test it real fast. You'll notice that I have an extra Goku emblem here, and there she is. And that is pretty much the entire process for actually getting the character into the game. And from there, all you need to do is actually just go and start testing the character to make sure that there's no major issues with the animations or clipping. You also need to set up the attacks, but that might actually require a separate tutorial altogether. But for the purposes of this one, I think that should just about cover everything. So thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and I hope that you learn how to make a character. Hope to see you guys make something soon.